Outer Worlds is the new big RPG by Obsidian Entertainment, who are arguably most well known for their work done in Fallout New Vegas. First thing I want to talk about is the dialogue system, and to be honest, it's very good. You can learn a lot about the world through the dialogue system as well as characters. The voice acting is also very good, and it adds more character to, well, the characters. When you engage in a conversation with one of your companions, for instance, they feel like companions. That I feel like there's not much to say about the dialogue system, to be honest. It's just very solid. It's very good. Now, the moment to moment gameplay. It's a massive improvement from Fallout New Vegas. As we know, in Fallout New Vegas and also Fallout 3 because they're on the same engine, gunplay, dog shit. It is awful, honestly. Now, I personally can stomach it, but for instance, I have a friend who wanted to get into Fallout New Vegas because me and another friend, we always tell him, like, you gotta play Fallout New Vegas. It's a good ass RPG. But he can't play it because of the gunplay and just, I suppose, general gameplay. It's just too dated. In Outer Worlds, they fixed it perfectly. The gunplay feels so good. I was really having a good time just walking through the zones, blasting enemies. Every fight, it's very solid. The game also has its own version of the VAT system, where basically time slows down, and when you shoot enemies on certain locations of their body, they get a debuff. And I feel that this is a very good system in its own right. I still like VATS too, but this is its own thing. Now, the zones themselves. In Outer Worlds, there are 4 zones for you to explore, and a couple zones, or probably, I think it's just one really, has multiple areas because this this game doesn't have just one open world. There are several planets that basically have like their own theme, and each of those planets is a fairly sizable zone. When you just look at the map, the zones won't look too terribly big, but each zone is filled with quests and points of interest, really. There's a lot of depth to each zone, so at surface value, it just seems like not a lot, but when you try to dig deep, you're going to be digging for a little while. Now, I went into Outer Worlds completely blind, and I personally was like, I suppose not necessarily disappointed, but I would have preferred for it to have just the one big open zone. But honestly, for the work that they've done, it's pretty good. Each zone is very different, and they each have their own type of enemies and such. So, like for instance, there's the wild planet of Monarch, which your main enemy is going to actually be alien animals, as opposed to Terra 2, which has a lot of marauders, which are basically just bandits, and so on. You get the idea. Now, in each of these zones, you're going to come across companions, and the companions can be recruited, or you could choose to just turn them away, but I don't know why you do that, to be honest. The companions are pretty cool, to be honest. I really enjoyed the companion system. Basically, every companion has their own side quest where you can learn more about the companion, and you basically just help them out with the problem. For instance, Parvati, the first companion that you encounter, she likes this girl. So you just help her get the girl, basically, and it's like a fun little side quest. But one thing I feel is more important is how the companions actually react to your choices. So, for instance, they will, in dialogue, they will comment and like put their own little input during the conversation, but they will also react to choices that you make. So, for instance, if you make a very evil choice, they will leave and you can't get them back. So, it gives you a sense of your choices have a little bit more weight to them, or like maybe that your words have a little bit more weight to them. Like these are characters with their own personalities, and I suppose just their own moral system, I suppose you could say. So if you make a choice that they don't agree with, they just won't, like, they just won't stand it, and they'll just leave, because why would they be with the captain who's such a horrible person, type of deal, you know what I'm saying? Now, on the gameplay side of things, companions have their own skill trees and abilities, which, to be honest, they're it's almost like a good and a bad thing, because honestly, the skill trees in this game are not the greatest thing in the world, but these companion abilities are pretty sick. Um, Basically, they just add a little bit of utility for each of your encounters, which, you know, is pretty cool. For instance, Parvati, the first companion that you get, her ability is that she slams a hammer onto an NPC and they stay down for a few seconds. With a skill, they'll stay down for even longer. Now, the skill points that you can put into to make your character stronger throughout the game, I feel like they just weren't all that interesting, to be honest. And by skill points, I mean like talents or whatever. Like they have an effect. The actual skill points that you can allocate to skills like engineering, medic, guns, I feel like that was actually a pretty good system. Because basically what it does is that there's branches of 3 skill points, and when you get all of them to 50, you have to put skill points into individual ones. So you really have to specialize what you want, which I felt was good. You have to really think about what you want, as opposed to just being a master of everything. Sometimes limitations are a good thing to really, you know, let you know what you want. Now these like talent points, I suppose you could say, I'm kind of referencing from WoW. Um, they just weren't that interesting, I feel. You know, they were kind of just like, I suppose, just small things, really. There was nothing super crazy like there were in Fallout New Vegas. So one thing, if they are to make a sequel, I wish they could basically make more interesting talent points. Now, I'm going to get into the negative really quick. And this is a pretty big problem I have with the game. And it's that it's just a very small game, basically. There's not a lot of anything. There's like only a handful of guns. There's only a handful of armor sets. There's only a handful of enemy types. There's like 2 factions, maybe 3. And the game itself, like main storyline, is actually very short. The game has a very big lack of content, which for $60 I feel is a scam. They're basically just robbing you, because you're paying full price for a game worth half that. $30 would have been way more reasonable, honestly, for how little content there is. It would have been totally acceptable, but the fact that they're asking $60 for just a very small game doesn't make sense. Like, if you ask me, this is a AA game. It's not as small as an indie game, and it has way more polish than an indie game, but it's not nearly as big as a AAA game. It's somewhere in the middle, which I don't actually have a problem with, because like I said before, the game has a lot of depth. The dialogue system is very good. I love the companions, and speaking of companions, each companion only has 1 quest. Why couldn't each have a quest line? You get what I'm saying? They're And you also don't find out much about the ship AI. She's really kind of just there, but you know, they kind of hint at her being sentient, but they never go into it. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but the game, it's just, I'm not gonna harp on it too much. The game just has a lack of content, but to be honest, it's one of the better games to come out in recent time. Despite that, I I kind of see Outer Worlds as almost an experiment, them seeing if this could work, and frankly, I think it worked very well. And eh, there's definitely going to be DLC, so I'll dig into that, but or whenever that comes out. But hopefully, if they come out with a sequel, I really want them to just make it a lot bigger. They can take all the time they want. I'm a very patient person and I have more games to play, so I wouldn't mind. But definitely, if they come out with a sequel, it needs to be bigger. Because if they come out with a game of this size again and they ask $60 for it again, that would just be ridiculous, honestly. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you're a little bit more informed on Outer Worlds now, so that hopefully you can make a informed decision if you want to buy it or not. If you ask me personally, definitely go with the Game Pass, because that's how I was able to play this game. I did not shell out $60. I paid $1. So I'm definitely not as tight as I otherwise would have been had I paid $60 and experienced such a small game. Because honestly, there's not a lot of replay value either. So for $60, it's definitely a scheme. But I would say definitely get it on sale. Obviously, it's not going to come out on sale for a while, but either get the Game Pass or get it on sale. Probably Game Pass. All right, see you.